Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today about e-portfolios and why we should begin a program to adopt them for our district. As you all know, there are great pressures being placed on our schools and teachers to document and demonstrate learner achievement. My presentation will outline briefly the needs e-portfolios can fill for our district and a diffusion campaign based on Rogers' theory of diffusion of innovations that will facilitate the adoption of e-portfolios and the successful diffusion of this innovation throughout our district. E-portfolios are a versatile web-based application that can be used to store learner artifacts that demonstrate their achievements academically, personally, and professionally. Recent changes in curriculum, as mandated by the state of Connecticut, in addition to district initiatives, have created a climate in which we will need to provide a method and means for documenting more accurately and efficiently the achievements of our learners. Additionally, the ever-present demand to cultivate and improve learner achievement continues to demand our attention. E-portfolios can provide a means to make more transparent the accountability of teaching and learning. Adopting standards-based e-portfolios will help our district prepare for NEASC accreditation visits by having collections of all student work immediately available. This will be both time-saving in that teachers will not have to gather sample assessments and illustrative of our school's assessment practices. During the past 2 years, the district has begun a data teams initiative. E-portfolios will make the collection and assessment of that data much more streamlined. In addition to departments analyzing and discussing common assessments, faculty will be able to review cross-curricular data and be better able to assess learner performance with a more holistic view. Next year, we begin the implementation of the Common Core State Standards recently adopted by the state of Connecticut. E-portfolios can provide a means to align activities and assessments with these standards. In addition to the documentation of learner achievement, e-portfolios create ownership of learning in our students. By maintaining and publishing their work, learners will become more active participants in the assessment process. E-portfolios also promote the learning and reflections of our learners. Public views, at least within our district's community, give students the opportunity to showcase their achievements and can be a motivating act for improved performance. Finally, e-portfolios will facilitate the infusion of a 21st century skills naturally throughout the curriculum. In essence, e-portfolios will provide us with the well-needed balance between the learning process and accountability. Dr. Helen Barrett is the lead thinker and researcher behind the evolution of e-portfolios, particularly in K-12 institutions. Capitalizing on the readily available web technologies, Dr. Barrett provides the following enhancements e-portfolios can take over the traditional paper portfolio. Rees and Levy proposed 3 current trends for using e-portfolios in higher education that are likely, according to the Gartner Group, very soon to come in K-12 institutions. As has already been mentioned, e-portfolios provide a means to document learning achievements and work as a vehicle for teaching 21st century skills. Second, e-portfolios can provide accreditation committees with clear measures of accountability and assessment. And finally, e-portfolios provide students a means to share their work in an environment in which they are quite comfortable. The ability to blend features of social networking into e-portfolios is an aspect that many researchers believe is significant to engaging learners today. E-portfolios began in the early 1990s, and many of the e-portfolio programs in place today have been based on the work of Dr. Barrett. Most e-portfolios are used in higher education settings, and there are many models available for implementation. However, a key feature of the e-portfolio is they are highly customizable to meet the needs of both individuals and institutions. Commercialization of e-portfolios throughout our district will come primarily in the form of providing examples of e-portfolios, professional development, and links on our district's webpage enabling parents and other community members to view our learners' works. However, as has been suggested by many researchers, an administrative mandate for e-portfolio use plays a significant role in the diffusion of this innovation. While there is limited research available on the innovation decision process of e-portfolios in K-12 settings, I present here an outline of the process I expect will need to take place. First, to create knowledge about e-portfolios, faculty will need to learn of our initiative, be provided with a definition, and be made aware of the links e-portfolios provide between what they currently do in their classrooms and demonstrations of learning and accountability. While it would be ideal that faculty would choose to adopt e-portfolios on their own, consistency within our district will require a district mandate to effectively persuade faculty and learners to begin using e-portfolios. As noted by Stredler and Wetzel, a gentle push from above is necessary. The district can assist faculty and learners in developing a positive attitude towards e-portfolios by providing guidance in the form of professional development so they may see how this new innovation relates to both district and learning objectives. Once the district makes the decision to adopt e-portfolios, implementation will have to be carefully planned, and I will address the agenda for this at the end of this presentation. Confirmation that the diffusion of e-portfolios has been successful will be recognized within a 4-year period, at which point I expect all students and faculty will have a fully functioning e-portfolios. Upon reaching the confirmation stage of this process, it will be necessary for us to establish a committee to monitor the effectiveness of e-portfolios to meet the needs outlined above, explore modifications proposed by users, and to develop an orientation program to e-portfolios for new learners and faculty. Aside from the initial communication to faculty that e-portfolios are going to be required in our district, most communications will likely take place through interpersonal means. To maintain a positive attitude throughout the diffusion process, I will suggest that we set up a blog for faculty to address concerns and suggestions in a timely fashion. Rogers found that most innovations adoptions can be charted along an S-curve. As the adoption of e-portfolios is just reaching the point of critical mass in higher education and still on the trailing end in K-12 institutions, I have forecasted here what appears to be the trend for e-portfolio adoption. Successful diffusion will also rely upon us selecting the best individuals within our district to appreciate the adoption of e-portfolios and assist us in communicating the effectiveness of this innovation. Described by Rogers as interested in trying out new technologies and having the respect of their peers, our innovators and early adopters would include me, the current members of the Technology Committee, and the department chairs for Language Arts and Social Studies. Collectively, these individuals will greatly enhance our diffusion efforts. As is true with all new things, there will be those who will resist the changes proposed by e-portfolio use. These laggards are likely to be intimidated by the necessary use of computer and web technology to create and maintain e-portfolios. To help these individuals develop a more positive attitude towards the adoption of e-portfolios, I suggest the following strategies. Invite the innovators and early adopters to share their perceived successes and results of e-portfolio use, provide extensive training and mentoring opportunities, and require all faculty to use e-portfolios. Often, many fears about technology are easily resolved and diminished by using the product. 3 attributes of e-portfolios will be significant in helping our district achieve critical mass. Relative advantage. E-portfolios are an effective tool to help us meet the ever-increasing need to provide evidence of learner achievement linked to standards. This is the most significant attribute. Additionally, the responsibility of collecting and presenting artifacts of learner work to accreditation organization can be distributed to the learners. The responsibility is shared, not placed on the shoulders of the faculty alone. Trialability. Initial implementation of e-portfolios can begin through a pilot program. Initially, all teachers can set up their own portfolios to learn the digital technologies, while our innovators and early adopters implement the program with students. This initial phase will create a low-pressured climate for the introduction of this program. Observability. As the innovators and early adopters pilot the e-portfolio program, they can share their learners' portfolios and provide feedback on the process of implementation and use. Rogers defines critical mass as the point at which it becomes necessary or inevitable for an innovation to be adopted. As the e-portfolio is a tool that will be closely connected to the district's learning expectations, accountability, and policies, a centralized approach for the adoption of this innovation is appropriate. To help us reach critical mass, it will be necessary for us to identify key change agents to facilitate the diffusion of e-portfolios throughout our district. Those individuals would likely be the innovators and early adopters earlier identified, coupled with the district's curriculum coordinator. Collectively, this group would be able to share with faculty and learners the need to change assessment practices, create communications channels, identify the problems to be addressed, motivate learners and faculty to change, facilitate the actual use of e-portfolios, and to help the district achieve confirmation of e-portfolio use. While K-12 institutions are far from reaching critical mass with e-portfolio use, we can aid our own progression towards critical mass in our own district by introducing e-portfolios to our innovators and early adopters first, and by providing incentives to other faculty in our district. Those incentives could take the form of release time from other district-mandated activities to enable volunteers to create a peer learning group for those using e-portfolios. With the pressures to improve learner performance, the recent adoption of the Common Core state standards, increased attention to having learners take responsibility for their learning, and recent state and federal suggestions for teacher accountability, adoption of e-portfolios by this district will provide a vehicle to meet those needs. Adopting e-portfolios will enable us to proactively address these before we are forced to react to failing to have met them. I propose the following agenda to move us forward and implement e-portfolios in our district. In Year 1, teachers will develop their own e-portfolios through an online professional development training course. In Year 2, freshmen and sophomores will establish e-portfolios and include assignments aligned to the Common Core state standards with suggestions from their teachers. Learners should also be encouraged in this stage to explore additional ways they can customize their e-portfolios. In Year 3, learners will continue to select artifacts that are demonstrative of learning standards and will reflect on others' work through the social networking features available in e-portfolios. We will also promote e-portfolios to parents in the local community, soliciting their feedback on learners' work. By Year 4, all members of our district will have e-portfolios, 100% adoption. At this point, I would like to address any questions you have.